It was a Monday afternoon at Crestwood Financial, one of the largest banking institutions in the city. The spacious lobby had high ceilings, polished marble floors, and expansive windows that allowed sunlight to pour into the room. A row of plush seats lined the waiting area, filled with clients either scrolling through their phones or chatting quietly among themselves. Among them was Andre Thompson, a 30-year-old African-American entrepreneur. Dressed in a sharp charcoal gray suit, his leather briefcase neatly placed beside him, Andre had an appointment with the bank's branch manager, Peter Reynolds, scheduled for 12 p.m. However, as the clock struck 2 p.m., Andre's patience had long run thin. He glanced at his expensive watch and, despite the late hour, had seen at least 5 clients, some of whom had arrived after him, being ushered in without delay. His jaw clenched as a young man in a hoodie and jeans walked up to the receptionist, had a brief conversation, and within minutes was escorted to the back offices. Andre let out a sigh, rubbing his temples. This wasn't the first time he had experienced this. The unspoken rules, the subtle dismissals, the way certain people were treated like VIPs while others were expected to wait quietly, it all felt too familiar. Andre wasn't one to jump to conclusions, but this time the pattern was too glaring. He wasn't simply being overlooked, he was being ignored on purpose. Shaking his head, he adjusted his tie, exhaled sharply, and stood up from his seat. He made his way to the front desk where a receptionist named Rachel was chatting with a coworker. As soon as Rachel saw him approaching, her smile faltered for a split second, something Andre caught with a keen eye. "Hi," Andre said, keeping his tone calm but firm. "I had an appointment with Mr. Reynolds at 12 p.m. It's now 2:05 p.m. Can you tell me why I'm still waiting?" Rachel fidgeted slightly. Yes, Mr. Thompson, I apologize," she said, her smile forced. "Mr. Reynolds is just really busy today." Andre crossed his arms, an eyebrow raised. "Too busy for a scheduled meeting?" he asked, a touch of irritation creeping into his voice. "I've seen at least 5 walk-ins go before me." Rachel's eyes widened. "Well, sir, sometimes Mr. Reynolds makes exceptions for certain clients." Andre didn't let her finish. "Based on what?" he asked. "What's their bank balance?" "Or their skin color?" Rachel's face turned pale. "No, of course not. I would never suggest that," she stammered. Before she could say anything further, the door to the private offices swung open, and Peter Reynolds, the branch manager, stepped out. Reynolds was a tall, silver-haired man in his mid-50s, wearing a custom charcoal gray suit with an expensive gold watch. He barely glanced at Andre before turning to Rachel. "Who's next?" Reynolds asked impatiently. "That would be me," Andre said, taking a step forward. Reynolds looked up at him, his cold blue eyes scanning Andre from head to toe. A thin smile curled on his lips. "And you are?" Andre felt his anger flare but controlled it. "We had a meeting scheduled for 12 p.m., he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Reynolds sighed dramatically, rubbing his temple as though Andre were an inconvenience. "Right. Mr. Thompson, we're very busy today. If you don't want to wait, I suggest you come back another time." Andre's blood boiled. "Come back another time?" "After waiting 2 hours, being ignored, and treated like I'm not even worth your time?" He took a deep breath, trying to control his temper, but was about to speak when the atmosphere in the bank shifted. The glass doors swung open with force, and suddenly all attention was drawn to the newcomer. A tall man, impeccably dressed in a tailored black suit, strode into the bank. His polished leather shoes clicked sharply against the marble floors, and every employee seemed to freeze at his arrival. Even Rachel's eyes widened in panic. The transformation in the room was immediate. This wasn't just anyone, this was David Holloway, the CEO of Crestwood Financial. David's piercing blue eyes locked onto Andre as he made his way over. Andre felt the energy change. The same employees who had been ignoring him all afternoon suddenly stood at attention. Reynolds, who had been cold and dismissive just moments before, adjusted his tie nervously. David's face broke into a warm smile as he approached Andre. Andre! David called out loudly, his voice cutting through the tension. Andre turned, a smirk forming on his face. David, he greeted, extending his hand. But instead of shaking it, David pulled him into a firm, friendly embrace. The entire bank gasped. Reynolds's face turned ghostly white. Rachel's jaw hung open in shock. The CEO of the entire bank had just greeted the man they had spent 2 hours disrespecting. David pulled back, still smiling. "What brings you here, Andre?" "I had a meeting scheduled with Mr. Reynolds," Andre said, his smirk widening. David's smile faltered and he turned slowly toward Reynolds. 2 hours, Peter?" Reynolds swallowed hard. "Well, sir," David raised a hand. Silence. He then turned to Rachel. "Did he sign in at 12 p.m.? Rachel, now visibly sweating, nodded. "Yes, sir." David turned back to Reynolds. "Explain yourself." Reynolds opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He was caught. David exhaled sharply, clearly displeased. "You know what? Forget it." His voice was cold, final. "Let's go, Andre." Andre grabbed his briefcase, smirking as he passed Reynolds. "Oh, and Peter," David called out. Yes, sir?" David adjusted his expensive watch. "You're fired." Inside the CEO's private office, David poured Andre a glass of top-shelf whiskey. "I can't believe this still happens," David muttered. Andre smirked. "But it won't happen again." David chuckled. "No, not here. Not anymore." "You know, I should be the one applying for a loan from you," Andre teased. David laughed, shaking his head. "Let's talk business then." This time, Andre wasn't made to wait. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more inspiring tales. Together, we can spread valuable lessons that remind us of the importance of humility, respect, and human connection. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.